What's going on, everybody? Boonjamin Bakchoy here with another weekly event video for you. Today we're going to be looking at the featured event at Australia with Alex Albon, and we're just using a regular time trial setup, except the wings I raised to like 2318 or 2319. It was really quick at the beginning. You can pause it and take a look. And the tire pressures are all set to minimum, so that's pretty much all the changes I made to the time trial setup, and we're getting right into it right away. So you're starting in P8 in front of signs here, and you need to finish P10. So I did try running it all the way till the end on these hard compound tires, because unlike the actual race in this featured event, Alex starts on softs and then he changed on to hards at some point. So you don't need to make a pit stop if you don't want to. But since your tire wear is at like 76% already, it probably would be smart to box for new softs. Just because for me, I couldn't control this car on these hard compound tires, and it was really hard to keep the cars behind. This is at 100 AI difficulty. I tried it at 105, just super impossible. I couldn't even keep up. But yeah, you're probably going to want to pit on the first lap here, as I do. And if you were watching, we did use a lot of ERS on that first lap, just because you want to get out of the pit lane in front of Stroll and Latifi if you can. There's a lot of RNG in the F122 weekly events now, the featured events anyway. So unlike last year where everything was super scripted, and it was no matter how many times you ran it, if you run it 20 times, you pretty much run into the same race every single time. But there is some RNG this year, and sometimes you can cleanly get out in front of oh, it's not Stroll, it's Vettel. So yeah, sometimes you can get out in front of Vettel and Latifi pretty easily, and then other times Vettel and Latifi find some speed and actually get out in front of you. But for this race, we were quick enough to get out in front of Vettel, and we did muscle our way through there. Everybody is pretty much on old hards except for Alonso, who is on mediums. So yeah, on that first lap, use up all of your ERS, and unless you're super quick without ERS, use up all your ERS so that you can get out in front of Vettel and Latifi, and that's two less cars that you have to get stuck behind in the race. But anyway, now we are in P18. Up next is Tsunoda and Magnussen, and again, like I said, because of the RNG, sometimes these guys are like 2 seconds ahead of you when you're out of the pit lane, and then sometimes they're like 5 seconds out in front of you. But I didn't use any ERS to catch up with these guys. They're really slow anyway, even at 100 AI, and we are about 3 seconds behind them now. So the setup that I'm using right now is pretty much the same since patch 1.06. I think there was a little bit of a change in the handling model when the 1.07 patch came out, the one with the Portimao track, but it didn't seem too different. It still felt okay. The setup from the 1.06 patch still felt okay, so I didn't bother going in and changing the setup or anything like that. I just used the same setup that I set my fastest time in time trial with. So you can see right now, just getting through the first sector here, we've already cut the gap down to a little under 2 seconds. Sometimes the cars in front are all battling and they're super close together, like from P17 up till P12, they're all within like a 3 second group ahead. Sometimes they're really spread out across, but luckily for us this time, we got them pretty close together. The last guy you're going to be passing to get to P10 is Gasly. So if you look at the mini map, it'll be that kind of gray dot in between the Alfa Romeo of Bottas and the Alpine of Esteban Ocon, going through the last few corners right now. So that is your goal, is to get to in front of Gasly there. We do get around Tsunoda here in the last few corners. Magnussen up next. Should be pretty easy with DRS and ERS here. Luckily, they're all on really old hards, so they brake super early, and they just don't get really good traction through the corners. You do have to watch out though, because they do go really slow through the corners. I don't know how many times I had to restart this because I ran into the back of them on on fresh softs because they were just going so slow. But we managed to get Magnussen going through here, and Schumacher's up next, and you can see just crawling through the corners here. So really just try to be careful, try to get out in front of them as soon as possible, but be careful knowing that they don't have quite as much grip as you do. So those last few overtakes didn't even happen on the DRS straight. They were going so slow through the corners that we could just pick them off whenever we caught up to them. So up next is Alonso. Alonso is probably the toughest one to overtake just because he's on mediums and they're a little bit fresher. He gets out in front of Stroll actually, so he's not the next one. Stroll is. I just finished this and I didn't watch it yet, so I don't remember how it went. And as you can see here, even with DRS, Stroll is really, really slow. Not even using ERS in our car, and we were still able to catch up with him. Now, this is the issue here. Sometimes when running this featured event is that they get so bunched up together like this that it's really difficult to overtake them once they get into a DRS train. But unlike the regular game where the AI is super OP on the straights, they just have straight line speed for days. For some reason in the weekly event, they're not really fast on the straights, so it was easy to get by Stroll there. Zhou Guanyu up next. Again, same with him as everybody else behind us. Just get ERS, DRS. He blocks off the inside, so we go on the outside, but he is on the softs. I mean, he's on the hards, so he has no grip, and then we just hang out around the outside and get by him again. So, yeah, not really difficult to overtake these guys at 100 AI. 105 is a little bit different. It was almost impossible for me to do it at 105. But then again, I only ran it like once or twice at 105 before I decided to lower the AI. So up next, Alonso, finally. I was a little early last time, but already within his DRS here on lap 55. You don't get too many laps in this featured event, only about 7 laps. I think most featured events are about 9 or 10 laps, but obviously this is recreating Albon's final few laps at Australia this year, so I guess they're trying to make it as realistic as possible, even though you don't have to pit if you don't want to, because they already have him as being on softs in this race. But yeah, just being patient here. This last corner is really difficult for me in the Williams. It just felt like there was no grip there in this car, so usually I can short shift into 5th and go flat out really early on corner exit, but for some reason in the Williams it was kind of difficult for me. I spun out at that last corner plenty of times, so just be careful with that. Again, he's doing the same trick here on Alonso, just kind of diving it down the inside. He's on older, harder tires, so he can't really battle you too much. And now we've moved up to P12. Ocon there in P11 and Gasly in P10 are the last 2 cars that you need to overtake, and then you've finished what you've needed to do. So these 2 guys even though I said that there is RNG and it's different almost every time, almost every single time that I ran this race, these 2 guys were always really close together. So luckily we managed to catch up to them pretty early on, lap 56 of 58. And we're within a 1.5 seconds of Gasly, so it shouldn't be too difficult. But sometimes I've gotten to like lap 57 and Gasly's like 5 seconds ahead. So again, it's kind of the luck of the draw here. If you find that they're a little too far ahead, don't get discouraged. Just restart it again. Hopefully you'll get a better roll of the RNG, and it should be easier for you to catch up to these guys. Yeah, but now they start battling here and slow themselves down. So at this point, I'm not really sure which one I should get behind, as I couldn't tell who was going faster. But Ocon does have the DRS, so I decided to turn on the ERS myself. And I was going to be patient here, but they were both going so slow that I decided to just dive down both of them, make a little bit of contact there with Ocon, but no damage was taken and no warning about running into another car. I'm not quite sure if making contact and getting that warning makes you lose points in this game. I know the last few games it did kind of deduct from your total overall score, but I'm not quite sure if it does it this year. But we lucked out anyway, didn't get a message there, so we got in front of him. And there you have it. We are in P10 right now. Bottas up in P9, 2.5 seconds ahead. We are on the last half of the penultimate lap here, so I wasn't quite sure if we would have the speed to catch up to Bottas, as the tires are starting to get a little bit more tire wear now. But yeah, we were still able to keep up with Bottas pretty well and close the gap, but ultimately just did not have enough time to catch up to him and overtake him. But yeah, there you go, guys. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that Albon is my favorite driver, just because he wasn't born in Thailand. He races under the Thai flag, and I myself was born in Thailand, even though I am not Thai. So he is my favorite driver right now. I'm happy to have heard that he just extended his contract with Williams today. Really funny tweet that he put out, kind of in the vein of Oscar Piastri. But yeah, I'm happy that he's going to be racing for Williams for at least the next year or so, and that he'll still be in F1 so that I can cheer him on. But yeah, this featured event was really fun, and anytime I get a chance to drive as Alex Albon in the Williams, you know, I'll be happy to. But we ended up completing this. It was really, really tough, even at 100 AI. I think this must have been probably the 20th time I ran it. I only ever finished it like twice, and I failed the first time because I had a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. But this was the first time that I actually completed this and got a score, and not have to reset after 2 laps because I spun out or something like that. Like I said, you can technically finish this on the really old hard compound tires, but for me it was just too difficult to control the car, and I just kept wiping out. So I don't know if anybody else would be able to do it. I'm sure the esports guys would be able to do it no problem. Sometimes I've seen them going into like the 80% tire wear with their cars and still setting like record laps, so I'm sure they could do it, but I really couldn't do it. But I don't know, give it a shot, see if you can do it yourself. Hopefully you picked up 1 or 2 things from this video that'll help you out in your run, even though the runs are pretty much different every single time, but at least the philosophy of what you have to do is pretty much the same there. But yeah, thank you for checking this video out. Remember to eat your bok choy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I think ultimately we finished like we were like ranked 21st or something like that at the end of this all, but it's still kind of early in the week, and I don't know, I think there's about 3,000 people that have tried it so far. I don't know how many more will, but yeah, pretty good finish for my first actual completed race here, so I'm happy with that. But yeah, anyway, all right, I'll see you guys in the next one.